Okay, so as you probably can tell by my entire channel, that I actually really like knives and weapons as a general. But what you might not know is my personal favorite of all of these is the butterfly knife. Like this one I just got done making. I've actually liked these for a long time. I first got into them from the game Team Fortress 2, believe it or not, where the spy character, who I always sucked with, but I thought was really cool as a teenager, it's at least his primary melee weapon. I think he actually carried a giant revolver, which I can't afford one of those, but, you know, I do what I can. But anyway, so I kind of got into butterfly knives. It took me a long time to actually get a hold of one, because not being illegal where I live, they're not popular. Up until recently, seems like recently, like all of a sudden I can buy them most places that sell knives. But for the longest time I couldn't find them. I finally got a hold of one at flea market that they have at the 4th of July at, well, a town over from where I currently live. But I've made a few over the years. If you've been watching for a while, this isn't my first butterfly knife I've made. I made another one that was, it worked. It was kind of weighty because the handle was made of steel, so it weighed quite a bit. And of course the blade didn't weigh much because it was like an 1/8 inch thick, about like this one, but this one has thinner steel and then G10 for the handle scales. Then over the years I managed to get a couple of them. I actually have a few different ones now that I've gotten. None of them I think cost more than $50, and that one's one that was given to me that's made with a pattern welded steel, so of course they had to charge extra. But anyway, I'd like to get some better ones eventually, and even this one's not very good. The main difference that I made from my last one is the one I made before had the 2 pins in the center of the blade, where this one actually has the notches cut out and the pins in the handle. I kind of want to try it. I don't know if I like it more, but it's just something to try. And of course this one is made from just scrap steel instead of like an actual piece of like 1085, I think. Been a long time. And this one you can't really do much with it for tricks. You can do the basic open and close that I've been doing the whole time talking, but anything else is just too wide, not weighted very well. But either way, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm gonna go inside because it is cold as hell outside, if you can't tell by the snow, even though you're probably watching this in like spring. It's currently December. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video and hope to see you next time. Okay, so I got this. I don't drop it. Okay, so I have this slightly now dusty piece of steel, flattened out, a little thinner than I wanted to, but actually about relatively average for most of the pocket knives I was comparing to, so I guess it'll be fine. Drilled 2 holes, center of which are a 1/2 inch apart, which I'm not gonna lie, was bases off some cheap, there we go. Yep, pretty close. Some cheap butterfly knives I've had lying around, or one of them. Most of them are cheap. A couple of them are a little higher priced, only because they're meant to look fancy. They're actually still pretty shitty. Not important to anything, but this is my basic shape. Gonna cut out. I was trying to grind here because I found out this is a nice groove in it, and I want to make sure I grind it out at least for the bevels. It does. It's fine. It's not gonna go anywhere. So I'm gonna kind of cut this out. I'll probably change it a little bit. I don't like the shape of that. It's not quite what I wanted. Anyway, these holes are where my pins are gonna go through, and I kind of put these little divots in it, as well as left a lot of space here, because my plan is it's gonna be one of those that has the pins in the handle, that when it closes, it sits in there, and then when it comes out, it has like a tab here that it catches on, instead of having the 2 pins sitting in there. I don't know. I think that's going to work a little better, and I kind of want to try it. However, I said never done this before, so hopefully that actually works. But I'm going to basically cut this shape out, then make the handles, so that way I can cut in everything and work around those handles after, so I can have this shape perfectly. If I try to go ahead and cut this out the way I want it and then try to make the handles and pins afterwards, I'm going to fuck it up. It's not going to work. So it's just easier to do it this way. Okay, so now what I'm doing is now that I have all these glued together, got my, I think I explained what I was doing, where I had the stainless steel and the G10 epoxy together. Got 3/16 hole drilled that matches with the blade. Now what I'm going to do is kind of give these a little more shape. I sand them a little bit just to make sure, God, I don't know why this one's focused. I gave it a little bit of shape just to make sure everything's going to stay the way I want it. Some vice grips together to make sure everything's even. Now what I'm going to do is make it taper to where it's narrower at the top than at the bottom. And of course, make sure it's a nice straight line. And yeah, hopefully since everything's clamped, it'll stay even like I want it to. Then round out the top. I'll probably leave that square at the moment and figure out what to do from there once I'm done. But so far, so good. Okay, so I did some work off camera, a lot of work off camera. Got everything shaped, everything fits. I added some spacers here. I literally just cut off a piece that was here and put a couple of the spacers in that I also added in there, so that way this can actually flip. I made this little T-piece here that's gonna lock it together once it's done. And I also added these 2 pins here. I originally was going to use tension pins, but I drilled the holes too big, so I had to use rivets. Either way, that keeps it from going too much in either direction. Now what I have to do is basically cut this, so that way it can actually, not basically just be an awkward push dagger. And I can actually, flip it. I can kind of do a little bit with it, but not much. Either way, I'm going to have to cut this down. Gonna have to be careful, don't want to overdo it, so I'm basically just gonna clamp this in the vise, cut a little bit with the angle grinder, and just keep going until it fits the way I want it to.